Welcome to the Fantasy Baseball Weekly Podcast with Phil Naessens.
Welcome to Fantasy Baseball Weekly. I'm Phil Naessens, and I'm the host of this weekly radio program brought to you daily on Max Sports Channels and is designed for you, the fantasy owner, to win your league. Because I want you to win your league. I want you to go out there on draft day so prepared that you feel ultra confident, uber confident even, and then just go kick ass. That's what I want to see you do. And I'm going to work very hard to make sure that that happens. And over the course of the next several weeks, we're going to give you plenty of names, plenty of information, in fact, a plethora of information, so that you can just go and do just that. Kick ass in your daily league, your fantasy draft, whatever it is you want to do. And one of the main questions that I get asked, and I must say it's a great one, is which stats are there that you should pay attention to? And which stats should you be focusing your time on, and which ones shouldn't you? Well, we're not going to worry so much about what you shouldn't focus on, because every sabermetric stat has its purpose. But the essential ones are the ones that you have in your league. Like batting average, home runs, runs batted in, stolen bases, runs scored, and the pitching category, wins, saves, earned run average, whip, and strikeouts. Those are the statistics that you want to focus on. You also want to look at a couple of other things too. You want to focus on on-base percentage, slugging percentage, and for pitchers, what you really want to focus on, besides the stats that I've already given you, are how many home runs do they give up. If a pitcher is giving up one home run every 9 innings, or better than that, he's your guy. But if he's given up more than that in 9 innings, well, you need to really dig deep and figure out, is this what I want? Is this the type of pitcher I want to stake my season on? And the truth is that those are the toughest calls to make, because, you know, we can focus on ERA, and that's important, but those are opportunity driven. You know, runs batted in, opportunity driven. But how many home runs a guy gives up, that means he's not fooling many people. You know, we also want to look at walks to strikeout ratio. That's another one that we want to look at very seriously when we talk about pitchers. Now, we're not going to talk about pitchers today. We're going to talk about catchers today. And I'm going to give you a bunch of them. And we're going to focus on on-base percentage, slugging, home runs, runs batted in, stolen bases, batting average, and runs scored. Those are the ones that are going to be in your typical 5x5 league. And that's what most of you play. You know, if you're into daily baseball, that's a different issue. And we'll do an entire show on daily baseball, but winning that league, picking that draft, putting your thing together, that's what we're going to work on today and for the next several weeks. It's important, though, when you look at those stats and you look at your league and you say, how many home runs will it take for me to win that category? And then you want to start to put together some names, several names, that can help you do that. It's not that difficult. It will take you some time, and we've told you before, it's going to take time for you to do this right. But I assure you, if you sit down and figure those out category by category, figure out what players you think will help you and what players will be available, use that system in a mock draft or two, and there's a couple of places you can do that at, and then go to work. Because you want to win your league, right? You don't want to lose your league. You want to brag about it. And if you're in a league where you don't know anyone, and a lot of people are like that, especially people I know here in Europe who don't have people to play with. So they join leagues on ESPN, Yahoo, CBS, Fox, wherever. You still want to win your league. Now, you might not know how many home runs will win because it's a new league, but still, figure it out. Generally, it's like between 200 and 250. And go out and make your draft according to what you need. Saves, wins, figure it out. Go by with your gut. Use your gut. Do your homework. Get the best players available at every position. Write down the stock. And once you do, and if you do, you're going to have a very good season. And you know something else? Even if you do fudge up a little bit, we're going to help you along the way this season, because after we prepare you for the drafts, we're going to give you nothing but sleepers and picks. We're going to talk about injuries and things for you to look for. We're going to continue to talk about prospects. And that's a big thing. We want to make sure you have everything that you need in one 30-minute podcast to help you do better. Now, obviously, you're not going to get everything from this show, and that's fair enough. But there are other resources like RotoWire, and they're the official stats provider for the Phil Naessens Show. They're a tremendous organization, tremendous people. They've been very good to me. They'll be very good to you. They are worth the subscription rate. They're worth the time. They're worth the trouble. And they'll help you win your league, because those guys over there are experts. You know, you've got guys like Jason Collette, who is the reigning baseball writer of the year, fantasy baseball writer of the year. And they have several other guys over there that'll do just that. We're more than likely going to bring on a RotoWire guy with us on this show. We'll see. The other thing you can do is listen to the radio. BaseballPodcast.net, or as it's called now, BaseballTalkRadio.com, is a tremendous resource because it's team-oriented. You're going to get a lot of information every single day from the folks who cover their specific teams every day. You're going to be directed to blogs and websites that are going to help you, because you're going to need to know the fifth pitcher on the Washington Nationals. You're going to need to know the backup catcher for the Houston Astros. You're going to need to know the pinch hitters. You're going to need to know a lot of things, and we're going to help you do that. BaseballTalkRadio.com will help you do that. The Phil Naessens Show does that every day almost, and once the baseball season really gets going around middle of April, we even amp up our coverage even more. So there's plenty out there. But I hope that answered your question about stats. And when I return, we're going to talk about the best catchers in this year's fantasy baseball draft. You're listening to the Fantasy Baseball Weekly Podcast on Max Sports Channels.
If you like baseball, you should be checking out BaseballPodcasts.net. It's one of the best places you can go on the internet to listen to independent baseball talk shows. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on our radio player that can be heard around the world. So won't you tune in and give us a listen at BaseballPodcasts.net. You can also listen to the great Phil Naessens Show here. See you there at BaseballPodcasts.net.
Brewtown Sports is your source for Brewers news and notes. Join Mr. Brewtown as he keeps you up to date on all the happenings of your Milwaukee Brewers and Major League Baseball. Follow the show on Facebook and Twitter, Brewtown Sports. Listen 24/7 at BrewtownSports.podomatic.com.
Hi, this is Gary Mack of Mets Musings, and I hope you'll join me each and every week as I recap all of the comings and goings-on in New York Mets baseball. I'll have guests on from all across Mets Nation, giving their insights and analysis on the New York Mets. And you can follow me on Twitter at Mets Musings 1, as well as on Facebook. The group name is Mets Musings. So tune in weekly to the Mets Musings, available at MetsMusings.com, Stitcher.com, iTunes.com, iHeartRadio, and of course, BaseballTalkRadio.com, the home of great baseball talk shows.
Hi, this is Phil Naessens from This Week in Tennis and the Phil Naessens Show. Max Sports Channels offers the best in sports talk radio, as well as great music 24 hours a day. It's my daily destination, and I hope it's yours. The sports talk begins each and every day at 3 p.m. and it ends around 9 p.m. Special programming on the weekends, and in between all that, the hottest music on the internet. That's Max Sports Channels. Make it your daily destination.
Welcome back to Fantasy Baseball Weekly. Catchers. It's the toughest position on the baseball field, bar none. It's a difficult position. They get banged up. They get concussions. They get run over. They get hit with baseball bats. They get foul tips off their mask. They miss games because of injuries. And they miss games because they have to rest. As I said before, it's a difficult position. And it's a difficult position to field for fantasy baseball owners. But this season, we have a bunch of good catchers. And I think it's going to be a little easier to fill out your roster and win your league. So in no particular order, let's start with Carlos Santana from the Cleveland Indians. What a season he should have this year. I think he's valued at around $15. That's a pretty good value. You're looking at 520 probable at bats, 75 runs scored, 20 home runs, 83 RBIs, 3 stolen bases, 265 batting average, an on-base percentage of about 380, and a slug of about 452. That is very good. You got to love that slug percentage, and you got to love the 20 home runs and the 83 RBIs, but there's something else to love about Carlos Santana. The Cleveland Indians are planning on trying to play him at third base throughout spring training. If that is the case, and if he can actually field the position, he's going to be eligible in 3 positions: as a first baseman, as a catcher, and as a third baseman. And if that's the case, his value will go way up. You will have an amazing player if you draft Carlos Santana, if you get him for a good value. You don't want to overpay for these guys. But Carlos Santana is a good value, especially once he's triple eligible. Wow. This guy is something else. And here's the thing, too, about this. There's another young fella down there. His name is Yan Gomes. And he's ready to assume the responsibilities as the starting catcher of the Cleveland Indians. The only thing that's standing in his way right now is Carlos Santana. If Santana can play third, Gomes is going to see more time. And Gomes is a pretty good little player, too. If he can't, well, he's going to split his time with Santana at catcher, or they may move Santana over to first. Santana's not happy about it. He wants to catch. But Gomes is ready. And if Gomes is ready and this all works out, Cleveland got a lot better offensively. The numbers for Gomes, the projected numbers are 325 at-bats, 45 runs scored, 13 bombs, 43 RBIs. He'll probably steal a base. His batting average will be around 249. His on-base percentage is probably a little weaker at 311. He doesn't walk a lot. And his slug will be 440, which is very good. I'm telling you, this is going to be an interesting situation in Cleveland, and you're going to want to pay attention to that, because that's going to be a big thing if Santana can play third as well. Wow. Jeez. Haven't seen that too often from a big-time star. Buster Posey's next up. The Giants have themselves a great catcher, but the best thing about him, too, is he's dual eligible. He plays first, and he catches. And he's going to play more first base this year, or so I've been told. His number projections are 505 at-bats, 67 runs, 17 home runs, 82 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, a 2.89 batting average, a 372 on base percentage, and a 459 slug. Not bad, and he's valued at around $15 as well. These are probably the top 2 catchers, Santana and Posey. They're going to be bringing in the most money probably. I'm not so sure that they're the best catchers out there. In fact, I'll get to one who I think is in a moment. But Jonathan Lucroy, he's another good catcher. He's for Milwaukee. He'll have 485 at-bats, 55 runs probably, 17 bombs. Most likely he'll hit 78 RBIs or drive in 78 runs and have 8 stolen bases. His batting average of 297, 359 on base, and a 470 slug makes him a valuable commodity. I especially like the stolen bases. I'm a stolen bases guy. This is something I like. You can live with his lower home run totals. His numbers are going to be lower than some of the others in the home run department, but he gets on base, he's going to score runs, and he's going to be a great addition to your baseball team. Boy, did he sneak up on us last year, didn't he? We didn't sneak up on everyone, but he snuck up. And I picked him up about halfway through the season. I was very happy. I believe Evan Gattis went down for a while. I needed a catcher, and I picked up Jonathan Lucroy, and I'm glad that I did. Now we've got Evan Gattis for the Atlanta Braves. He's another dual-eligible fantasy baseball player, outfield and catcher. 445 at-bats, 60 runs, 29 bombs, 88 RBIs, no stolen bases. The guy has no wheels at all. His batting average will probably be around 250, 260. His on-base percentage of 301 is not very good. He doesn't have a very good eye at the plate. But his slug is at 491, 491. That makes up for a lot, doesn't it? His value is, like Jonathan Lucroy's, around $13. You don't want to pay too much more for him than that. The thing about Atlanta, though, and they are loaded in the outfield, and they have a pretty good catcher down there, a backup in Ryan Domitz. Now, his projections are 345 at-bats, 36 runs, 11 bombs, 48 RBIs. He might steal a base. His 264 batting average, along with an on-base percentage of 330 and a 423 slugging percentage, boy, that's a good deal. That's not bad. If he goes down, he being Evan Gattis, this kid can step right in. They won't miss a beat in Atlanta, and neither will you. So keep an eye on that situation in Atlanta as well, with that loaded up outfield and Domit showing that he can catch and hit. One of those guys might be expendable. So keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on the Atlanta Braves catching situation. Also, check this out, Joe Mauer. He's my guy. He'll be dual eligible this season, at first base and at catcher. He's only going to play first base this season, and that's a good thing. So after about 10 games, you're going to have a dual eligible Joe Mauer. Now, most likely you'd want to use him at catcher to get the full value out of him, but still in all, if you have a decent backup catcher who can get things done, why, Joe Mauer can be moved to first base or even as a utility player, and he's going to give you great value. 515 projected at-bats, 77 runs, 11 bombs, 72 RBIs. He might steal a couple bases. His batting average is 283 probably, a 375 on-base percentage, a 421 slug, and you'll probably get him for about $12. More than likely you'll pay more because of the dual eligibility. But Mauer is someone I always target right off the bat. I love having him on the team because even though he struggled a bit last season early, when he gets it going, he can put up numbers, and that's what we win with in fantasy baseball is numbers. Willeen Rosario, who is probably the best catcher. I'm going to say this right now. I think he's number one. He's probably my number one target. The Colorado Rockies have a good one, and if you draft Willeen Rosario, you will too. He's projected to have 415 at-bats, 63 runs scored, 23 bombs, 67 RBIs, and he'll steal a few bases for you too. His batting average, the projections are around 280, 290. His on-base percentage of 310 is not that good, but his slug is 504, and that's tremendous. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that at the end of the season, he will have the highest slugging percentage out of all the catchers in fantasy baseball or real baseball, and he'll be right up there with just about anyone. Right now, he's valued at $12, but I'm going to tell you right now, you're not going to get him for $12, and if you do, you got yourself a steal. Brian McCann, he switched places, didn't he? Now he's a New York Yankee, so he's going to get booed along with the rest of them, but it's all good for him. 475 projected at-bats, 60 runs scored, 24 bombs, 76 RBIs. Perhaps he'll steal a base. He's not exactly the fastest guy either. Projected batting average of 272. His on-base percentage of 353 is fantastic. And his slugging percentage of 459 ain't too shabby. And if you can get him for $11, you got yourself a pretty good value, I think. Brian McCann's going to catch every day for New York. I don't think anyone's going to be pushing him. And if he does have the day off, more than likely, they'll use him as a DH. He's valuable. They paid a lot of money for him, and they're planning on using him. So draft him if you get the chance. I think he's worth it. Next up is Yadier Molina. Now, Yadier Molina, years past, well, I should say up until 2 seasons ago, you wouldn't be talking too much about Yadier Molina in a fantasy baseball show. But we're talking about him now because he made himself into a fantastic hitter. His 475 projected at-bats, 54 projected runs, 13 bombs, 75 RBIs, and 5 stolen bases. Very good numbers. His batting average of 305, he'll probably wind up having the highest batting average amongst all catchers this season. A 353 on base, fantastic, and a 459 slug gives him a grand total of worth $11 or so. But here's the problem. He gets injured because he is a scrappy, hard-nosed, balls to the wall, old school baseball catcher, and he won't play every day. You know, when he went out last season for St. Louis, they were in trouble. And they learned something from it, I'm sure. And they're going to rest him when they can, and they probably should. And that's something that you should take into consideration prior to the draft. Salvador Perez for Kansas City's up next. 495 projected at-bats, 56 runs, 16 home runs, 71 RBIs, no stolen bases. Again, he's another one with no wheels whatsoever. His batting average is projected at 287. His on-base percentage is projected at 324. His slug is pretty good at 448. And he's valued at $7. You know what? That's not a bad value for a second catcher. I don't know if he will be one of the first 12 chosen. More than likely he will. And if you can get him for $7, I think you did pretty well. I really think you did pretty well. Now, Matt Wieters is up next for Baltimore. I like Baltimore a lot. I liked them last year, but they let me down. But Wieters didn't. His projections this season, 490 at-bats, 58 runs scored, 21 bombs, 71 RBIs, and 2 stolen bases. His batting average projections are 265, 328 on base, and a 449 slug. You're looking at about a $7 value there, $8 value, any more for him, and you probably paid a little bit too much. Another catcher that's not valued very high, and maybe he should be, is Jared Saltalamacchia for the Miami Marlins. He's no longer a Red Sox. The job is his in Miami, and he's projected to get 420 at-bats, scores 61 runs, hits 17 bombs, 63 RBIs, 3 stolen bases, 250 batting average, 320 on base, and a 455 slug. Not too bad. His value is about $2, and if you can get him for $2, I think you got to steal, because this kid, no one is going to be behind him. It is his job to lose, and I don't think he's going to. He's going to play almost every day, and when he gets the chance to play, he gets the chance to hit, and the more times he bats, the more times you're going to like it, fantasy owner, especially for $2. Let's see, Jason Castro is out there for Houston. His projections are 415 at-bats, 55 runs, 16 bombs, 60 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, a 265 batting average, 347 on base, and a 463 slug. You can probably get him for $1. That's not a bad value at all. And let me see. Let me give you a couple guys I think perhaps are grossly undervalued. Let me see. I'll give you one. How about Travis d'Arnaud? If you want a sleeper, Travis d'Arnaud is your sleeper. Travis d'Arnaud is going to be the starting catcher for the New York Mets this season. There is no one there behind him. Unless the New York Mets do something drastic, which I don't think they're going to, he's their guy. He's hit all throughout his career, all through the minors. The problem is the last 2 seasons he hasn't played a full season. He's been injured. That's a worry. But if this kid remains healthy, there's every indication that he's going to hit. And when he does, people are going to regret not picking him up. And he's someone I'm targeting. And I'm targeting him as a backup because I think he's going to have a fantastic season. I really believe in this kid. I tell you what, I believe in him as much as I believed in R.A. Dickey 2 seasons ago. And I think that turned out well. And I think Travis d'Arnaud is going to turn out very well. You'll be able to get him for probably off the waiver wire for nothing. And if that's the case, then that's what you want to do. I wouldn't pay more than $1 for him, but he's there. And one other guy that I'm looking at a little bit here is for the Dodgers, A.J. Ellis. 360 at-bats, 36 runs, 9 bombs, 41 runs driven in. More than likely he'll bat .253. His on-base percentage of .342 is pretty good, and his slug of .375 is not too bad. Those are good numbers. Now, they're not as good as the others, or some of the others, but A.J. Ellis is probably going to be the starting catcher for the Dodgers. If you really want to find out what's happening there, tune in to Wednesday's Phil Naessens show. I'll be having Eric Stephen from True Blue LA. He's a credentialed reporter. He'll be on the show for 15 minutes, and I'll be sure to bring this up to him. But A.J. Ellis is someone who I think is grossly undervalued. I think he's going to have a fantastic year if he's able to stay healthy, and it should be a lot of fun. I'll tell you what, this has been a lot of fun, but I gotta get out of here. I've got to go record my show now, my daily show, so I have to let you go. But I hope that helped you, and as always, do your own homework. Use this for a guide, and go use sites like RotoWire or wherever. Fantasy Baseball Cracker Jack's a pretty good one too. Go ahead and use them, and see what's up. Use Google. Go do it. Do your homework, study hard, and you're going to win your fantasy league. See you next week on Fantasy Baseball Weekly.
Hi, this is Phil Naessens from This Week in Tennis and the Phil Naessens Show. Max Sports Channels offers the best in sports talk radio, as well as great music 24 hours a day. It's my daily destination, and I hope it's yours. The sports talk begins each and every day at 3 p.m. and ends around 9 p.m. Special programming on the weekends, and in between all that, the hottest music on the internet. That's Max Sports Channels.